Hello, everyone, and welcome to RHAP's coverage of Australian Survivor Brains V Brawn II. I'm your host, Shannon Guss, here to discuss the merge. We are in the second half, episode 13. It is a Sunday night, and to talk about it, I have my Sunday night co-host, as always. He is, what did we say, the buttercup of the Powerpuff Girls. It is the great Chappell. Chappell, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I am the toughest fighter. That conversation is so interesting because there's a lot of bubbles to me as well. I'm very bubbly. I am. I can't help it. So I really felt like, oh man, am I getting just pigeonholed into Buttercup? Like, should I be fighting harder to be the bubbles of this podcast? I don't know. Put a lot of thought.
But that would make you the buttercup if you were to fight harder.
Exactly. Exactly. My buttercupness just outweighs the bubbleness in those other. It's just they're so bubbles, right? Like Mike, Puya, how do you outbubble those two people? I'm done.
Yeah. It's hard because I would be the buttercup if I was in this conversation.
No, you're the blossom. Stop it. It's like it's like the blossom and then like three bubbles.
Yeah, maybe that's what I always thought. Just at least from like a hair and eye color perspective, I've always been the buttercup, and the resting bitch face. I don't think I have as much of an edge as Buttercup does, but from a pure like coloring perspective, it felt right. But did we need to like carry this on to a second week? Is this something people are enjoying?
I kind of like it. I don't know if they don't like it. We could be other things. Every week, just come up with another way to sort us into other characters.
I need more trios.
We need more
trios. By the time the season is done, we'll have every single one sorted.
I think we could do it. Okay, so that'll be in the background. We'll do that in the back while we talk about this episode of Survivor, the merge.
Yeah, that's what makes it zippy. Every week we decide what trio you guys are. But the merge. It was kind of a snoozy merge, though, right? Is that a great way to start a podcast?
It wasn't the most exciting merge. It felt like everybody thought it was going to be, though. It felt like Kate thought, I'm about to do a thing, and it's gonna blow everybody's mind. And then you got AJ like, ha. I know you think you're going to do a thing, but I'm going to do a thing. And then you got the other crew saying like, no, wait. There's still Zara and we don't like her either. So it was like everybody thought this is going to be their masterstroke. It does feel like Kate wins the day, like, because she was determined to do this. No, I mean, like, she got what she wanted.
Oh, right.
But as far as like the move itself, I do have questions because I don't know. Should you be eating one of your own like this? I don't know if I agree with this. I don't think I agree with this move.
100%. Well, firstly, the things we're discussing are basically deciding between two otherwise like unanimous targets, pretty much. Like, people have their preferences, but like both Paulie and Jessie have no one. Jessie no longer even has Ben. Does Paulie have any allies? I mean, Paulie's probably in better with Morgan and Kate, which maybe is a reason that he was saved here, and we can talk about that. But yeah, I mean, we see this sometimes with these big 13-person merges that like a consensus vote ends up being the way to go. Even though they start in these 12-person tribes and should be a little battle ready. Brawn's probably less so, I guess, but like battle ready to like go to war. That doesn't end up happening. Sometimes they just kind of end up piling up on a consensus target. And we know the flip was already on for Brawn last time. So if they're coming in a minority, they just like the ship to them was sinking and they did not fight for it. They put a hole in the ship themselves and then were like, jumping off it as it was going down. So at that point, everyone was jumping off other than Paulie and Jessie, who shockingly, I think, thought that the Brains would give up. Even the chaotic Brains, they're like slim numbers majority. Like, I know there's been drama, but you'd think that you would doubt it even just a little bit. Like, okay, maybe they'll do it. But they were so sure that they would give up that 7-6 that I thought that there was a lot of hubris in that. And yeah, we get this kind of decision between Jessie and Paulie. And I do think what you're saying is interesting because we can start off talking about Kate and Morgan because the Brains split their numbers, right? Like the 6 Brawn can come over the top. And while that seems crazy, it must have been so obvious in the moment that it wasn't really a 7-6. It was kind of at least, a 9-4, let alone the fact that Kristen and Petey are going to come over and make it an 11-2 anyway. But they split their numbers. If the 6 Brawn had stuck together with their fractures aside, they come over the top and they make it a 6-6. I think they have the numbers. Now, last week, Puyo and I disagreed. I said that I didn't like that Kate and Morgan were already kicking the Brawn boys under the bus, and I thought they could have got to a majority at that point, let alone a plurality, and probably could have even won the day here. He liked that they were getting ahead of it and making a move. So you question, where do you fall on them, parting from Brawn so quickly that they did it last week, actually?
Well, I need to know kind of where Kate is coming from with this move specifically because, like, for everybody else, it's like, okay, fine. But because Kate was the driver, I think my interest is kind of like, I want to know what she's doing here. Like, is she like getting rid of Jessie because she talks about maybe like this girls' alliance, right? The women's alliance. She says like, nah, we came in strong with the women. We know that they've linked up with the other women, even for this vote. So is she thinking Kate, Morgan, Zara, Karen, Logan, Kristen, is that the crew now? And if that's so, I don't think she's in an awful spot, because she also tangentially looks like she has AJ as well, right? So it's like, if it's her three, women, the Kate, Morgan, and Kristen, with Zara, Karen, and Logan, and then you bring in the additional, and additional Laura, right? Exactly. And then you bring in the additional AJ with Miles. She's fine for a minute, but that's if that alliance, that Braun thing is completely done. Like if she's able to do that, I think she does control more of those votes than not. But just looking at it like that. But from the sheer numbers standpoint, I wasn't so sure because the show doesn't really paint it like that. Like Kate has all the numbers. It just felt like, nah, I was trying to get Jessie out, and now is my chance to get Jessie out.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I prefer getting the numbers before you cut it up, and they still have the opportunity to have the numbers. That's what Brains do here. They are at each other's throat and always have been, but they still have the presence of mind to have it only be Braun's targets, and now they have a 7-5 majority, and maybe they'll build on that a little bit, take out like a Paulie, and then cut it up. Like, I think that gives the Brain women, especially, who are between this possible, 7-5 now Women's Alliance and 7-5 Brains Alliance, I think it gives them a lot of agency. And while the Brains definitely will flip on each other, let alone the girls from the guys, and the girls probably internally too, which will give Morgan and Kate room, I just feel like it's a little bit less agent. I would rather get the numbers and then play my game. Hopefully take out targets. If instead of, Paulie and Jessie, the targets are like an AJ or a Miles, and you can keep some of those female options. I mean, at the end of the day, it was Zara too. So for whatever, you take a you just, well, I guess you were working with Zara. They've met Zara and they were with her for weeks, but they weren't talking to her for a long time. Even if you cut some of the women and then pick them up later, for me, there's just a little bit more control, especially in these big groups. If you're getting to a 6-person majority, if you can work through, because I think if they get to a 6-6, I don't know that the Brains are going to war. The Titans and the Rebels did it last week, but that feels like a lot for a group that's been at each other's throat. I think they could have won the day here. Are the Brains splitting their numbers if there's any doubt, or are they doing it because it's so clear that they're with them? I don't know. It would have to be a big blindside, but it felt like they still had an opportunity and they just gave up on it so quickly. And while I do think it's important and valid, who they want to work with, and if they don't want to work with Jessie, that's valid too. But something about just having a 6-person majority, you can really whittle down some numbers, and then I think I'd rather cut it up from a 10 or a 9 than 13. There's a lot of game to play, and that's just too open for me, for players who haven't necessarily shown that they're going to thrive in an open environment. It's what I said last week, and I stick with it. And while it does seem like almost fan fiction and tough here to come over the top of 6, the numbers were there, the decision was theirs, the agency was technically theirs. And I just feel like they gave up on it, I mean, literally last week so quickly, and it's just still not what I hugely endorse.
Yeah, but the more we talk about it, I do kind of like it, because it's not, you're right, it's not conservative at all. But I do think that, if you're looking at the people that you want to play with, if you're in Kate's spot, I think that once we outline that she does have the Women's Alliance and that she has a good working relationship with AJ, she has no reason to vote him out. Whereas, Paulie is in a way
AJ yesterday. And
but Paulie's a pariah. Yeah, but Paulie is
so was AJ. Paulie's a pariah more than AJ?
Well, even AJ was confused as to how he's not, right? he was able to whipped up 4 votes on Paulie very quickly, and AJ's name seemingly did not come up. Even Logan was like, hey, I want to vote out AJ, not this week. When she came in saying I'm tired of people telling me I can't vote out Logan. I'm ready. Vote out AJ. Whenever I'm ready, I'm ready. But next time, it's something about Paulie, Jessie, where it's just those targets were just way too tempting for them. Where it's we're not gonna let AJ win the game, but we can keep him around for a little bit while we maneuver and get out some of these more threatening people to our own games. So I don't know. I think you're kind of talking me into it a little bit more for Kate.
Well, I'm intending to. What about, this is the issue for me, is that Jessie while he gave up Matt, has been, it seems, domineering. And he's saying Zara here, and they probably don't want to lose a Zara. They probably should want to have their cake and eat it too, like the Brains women are doing with their both tribal and gender majority. That's why I think that they should be as well. And they could almost get to that point if they vote out a Brains guy. The issue is, I think if you go to Jessie and are like, we don't want to do Zara, they'd have to come to Jessie and say, there's been a plan on you. They're splitting their numbers. We've been chatting to them, but we're working with you. Again, with all of this, like, the issue is that they turned already last week. Like, at that point, the game is set. But that's what I disagreed with to begin with. Because at that point, if they stick with Jessie, like, there's so much information where, like, Laura can come back next time. And if Zara's still in the game, come back next time and give all this information. So I'm still disagreeing with something I think that they already did. Like, the die was cast. Not the same way it is in 48. But the die was cast last week. But I feel like it's really hard to think about what this universe looks like if they don't do that, because if that doesn't feel like an option to the Brains, they probably don't split their numbers and are just going 7 strong in on someone. So those conversations are crucial to where we get to that gives them the opportunity to do it, if that makes sense. But because they've like genuinely given them that opportunity, firstly, that they are actively doing it. And secondly, if they don't do it, they're backing out and they've given information to the other side that probably makes it difficult for them. So to be fair, I think the fact that this is even available is because it was going to happen. And now arguing that it shouldn't happen is probably a contradiction now that my mind is, if any of this makes sense, like my mind's getting around that. But yeah, I guess it's that the die was cast last time. But in a perfect world, you could go to a Jessie and be like, we have the opportunity here to do something, but not on a Zara. We should go for like a Kaylin, you know? Like, why is not talking about Kaylin? The guy is so strong. He's an Adonis. And he's not someone that they've met. Even though he's not getting confessionals for us, like, they can see him out there, right? So like, he's invisible. They haven't met him. They don't know him. He's a possible immunity threat. Like, someone like that who you don't have a connection to, and who actually does have a connection to some of the other women, which might be threatening. That could be an issue. But again, I don't know that opportunity exists without the real ties they've made for the women, which at that point, they're kind of deep into this plan with the women and probably have to follow through on it. I just don't think I agreed with that to begin with. I think all of this makes sense. I'm kind of podcasting under duress here, but I feel like, does this make sense? Is this right?
No, it's kind of like you didn't want them to get in this position in the first place. And so that's why it's hard for you to agree what they're doing in this position. You're like, why can't you go back and not do the thing that you did?
I disagree with the premise.
Right, because like Kate was saying, she can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. She already let's get Jessie out. And if it creeps over to Jessie, like she already wants Zara out, but like because they have a majority, she's like, hey, if Jessie is able to rally the tribe against me, we're already in the minority. There's not much I can do to save myself. So I need to get him out now before he's able to get the momentum on me. And I think, you're right. Once you start, like once you swing in that direction, you kind of have to finish it. You got to double tap. So yeah, I don't think I kind of lean more what you were saying as far as like them getting in this position. That's why I came in thinking like, I don't really know how I feel about Kate, but I think now that she's in the position, I didn't hate the move. I just think that like her numbers are clearly not being tribe strong at all. I think she has her tribe with her. I think Paulie would be happy to vote with her. PD would be happy to like come with her as well. Kristen, she seems to have a really good relationship with. So they're moving in lockstep in a way. They split the votes together. So now all she has to do is stay kind of in the middle of those two things, right? The women's majority and this minority of Brains. Of Brawn. And I think she's fine for a little bit. I think there are bigger threats out there.
Well, the Brawn tribe has been very fractured. Like, even like trying to keep them together, which again, I feel like if the Brains can do it, like they were going to vote out Paulie over AJ when Ben went home, they've stuck together. Like if the Brains tribe can stick together through everything they've been through, it makes me judge Brawn harder for not being able to do it because they had so much less beef. And they're the ones who can't get it together. And I really question that. Like we see that way back to like the Nash crew, like the PD Kristen group who are with Nash, like they have their issues even with the majority. Obviously the girls and the guys have been split. Like they couldn't get it together. And it's really obvious that, this ends up being like a full split with everyone involved. It changes from the original split that we saw, which was kind of like a 9-person group of like the Brains, Morgan and Kate. But then like the 6-5 we see wouldn't have been a proper split. That would have been more of like a 5-4-4. So like, even though it looks like AJ is going very much to like Kristen and PD, they're clearly brought in to become like a proper like 6-5-2 on this like 11-2 person vote. Because they're all just like, rushing off the sinking ship with a really slim minority. If different decisions were made last week, like, and Ben wasn't taken out of the game, like challenges could have been thrown. Like brains could have been voted out on that side when they had the power. So I feel like they gave up the majority really quickly. They clearly didn't want to work in that group. And I do think at that point they actually, like, I understand that we're in that universe now, like there's nowhere else to go. But I just think they've given up a lot of agency. Like the people that I'm looking at really positively here are the Brains women, because I feel like they're having their cake and eating it too. Like they keep their majority, even though they've had so much drama, they can keep it together in a way that Brawn have not. And they have this women's alliance option. Like they have agency and options. And I actually thought what was so interesting is I'd love to get your take on Paulie v. Jessie. Because at first I kind of felt like, why take out Jessie? Like Paulie, like I agreed with AJ that Paulie just felt like so much more, like he feels like he has more capacity as a player. They both have no one clearly on the other side of this unanimous vote. They're both challenge threats, so they kind of equal there. But I just feel like Paulie sounds an idol. Like it just feels like he will like do more as someone on the bottom than Jessie would be capable of doing. I feel like he's more of a one-note player. But then I thought about it, and two things really came to mind of why I think this is actually better for not AJ, and I don't know about Kaylin, because again, we don't really see much of Kaylin, but for the women and Miles, I actually think Jessie was the go, because firstly, the biggest thing for me for the women is that it appeases Morgan and Kate. And while maybe Paulie is an option for Morgan and Kate, you have more power over them, and like why piss them off at a point where they're an option for you and you're trying to work with them. So I actually really like that for the women. And then I thought as well, you can probably, they could have been the jury starting here because it did in Blood versus Water for a final 3 at 13. But assuming that didn't happen, and it probably wouldn't happen because it usually starts around an 11 for either a final 2 or 3. If you're thinking one of them might be on the jury, I would, for the women, would rather take Jessie out. I feel like he will vote in a kind of bro-y way. I feel like even though Paulie's mentioned integrity, he said online he meant just for the challenge throwing. I feel like he might definitely reward more of a Miles and probably more of like this kind of gameplay aspect where Jessie might be more broing down on what I don't know enough about Jessie, but like I think I prefer Paulie as a juror. So for those two things, I actually think I came up on the side of Paulie being the better person to stay for what the Brains kind of decided, other than AJ, but
the show kind of makes it look like AJ went to go whip the votes against Paulie and was hoping at tribal council that he would have the votes to get Paulie out.
Yes.
Do you think that is accurate, or do you think it was always just a split and he was just talking? Because it sounds like like if he thought that they could whip the votes, there's a person missing from his numbers. Obviously, he's one down. So who did he think he had who was going to take out Jessie? If we're being presented with accurate information.
Yeah, I don't see how it's possible, because the original split we were told was kind of everyone other than, like in their 9, it was like everyone was on. It didn't even make sense as a split. It was like everyone on Jessie, and then Miles and AJ were on Paulie, and then he was bringing over Kristen and PD, which again wouldn't be enough. And then actually Laura jumped to be on the other side on the Paulie vote, which made it a 6-5-2. So that's what makes me think like, okay, they knew it was a full like 11-3, because you wouldn't, a 9-person majority wouldn't split 6 to 3 to technically 4. You would split 5 to 4 to 4, but then that would give the opportunity for Kristen and Petey, who aren't in the majority at that point, to come over the top and just vote out Paulie. So they're clearly in on the plan. I think all of this was like, I don't know, fan fiction in a snoozy kind of mass split vote for me.
Yeah.
Numerically, that's what makes sense.
But since we're here, what if it's not? What if AJ really thought, this is my chance to blindside Paulie? I went to go get these other people. You know, of course, he was told, him and Miles were told to vote for Paulie in the split. Yeah. As you can see, Laura jumped. So you know that at least somebody else, at least she was in on whatever the split was too. But when he goes to go get the numbers, who did he think he had? Like that's my question. If we're getting anything remotely accurate, like from the edit, then it does sound like he went in hoping that there was going to be one rogue vote that could go the opposite direction and he could win the day and get Paulie out. I don't think it makes sense, but I don't know. It sounded like he thought that was a possibility.
Well, even if you were to do the riskiest thing possible and tell Jessie to vote for Paulie, that would only make it a 6-6-1, and then they would all just vote out Jessie. So I don't see where the numbers are. I mean, AJ does, like, this is what AJ will do. Like, AJ, when he has no power, he was trying to do it last week. Like, you got to credit the hustle, but like last week, but it's like he literally is like, I've pushed it far, I should just kind of take my medicine. And then he's like, but what if we vote out Logan? Like, he's still trying from the bottom. That will be AJ. So instead of AJ just being like, I'll just sit here and be happy to not be the target. He's like, but what if we get out the target that's only good for me because he has nothing with Paulie, and it seems like that there's like after everything where he was getting the other tribe to throw for Paulie once upon a time. It feels like he really can't work with Paulie. Although Jesse doesn't have a lot of love for AJ anyway. So from a jury perspective or a game perspective, like, does it hugely matter? And that's what's the funniest thing about AJ is like on the slimmest possible margins when he has absolutely no agency and should probably just like take a seat, he will still be pushing even for things like this where it's like, just vote out Jesse. Like, it's better for everyone else and it's kind of neutral for you. And maybe just like, don't be the guy always pushing all the time, AJ.
Is it Kaylin? Is Kaylin the drama? Did AJ think he had Kaylin? They had a good working relationship.
Okay, yeah,
I think that they've been tied together this entire time. I think, right? They were on the same tribes. And we don't see Kaylin a lot. But why would Kaylin have allegiance to the women? Why is he on the primary vote, anyway, when it comes to the split?
But originally Laura was on the primary vote. Like,
right.
Then you just switch Kaylin and Laura, and he still doesn't have the numbers anyway. Firstly, we've seen that Kaylin, who does try really hard to manage stuff, will be like, usually AJ will come to him like, we vote out Logan, and Kaylin's like, no. So it is possible that's where he's trying to go. But even then, there's not enough numbers. Like, he's having to try and get people onto the second part of a Paulie split and then add numbers to it. And it's like, they're not going to allow that to happen. I don't think there was anything here personally.
Yeah. Cause I guess the smoking gun is Laura, right? Like, if they were actually trying to flip and take out Paulie, Laura is not going to be in on that. She's not going to be involved in that at all. She's not leaving the Girls Alliance to go and join AJ on this coup against Paulie of all people. Like, it's just not a thing. And so, like, if it wasn't for Laura, I'd actually think that there was probably legs to this. But no, I think AJ just talks a really good game. And he does. I think he's a really good narrator. I will give him that credit because I definitely was giving that credit to Rich at the beginning of the season. It's just like some of these people, they just know how to control like a narrative and to talk into the camera, and they're good in confessionals. And I think he's a great character so far.
Well, I think that, like, you would need to get them, like, trick them into putting some of their numbers onto the Paulie split and then have some of your numbers, like a Kaylin, technically on the Jesse split, but then you add those numbers to the Paulie. I mean, just that, if Kaylin just jumps, that's enough on a pretty slim 6'5" which is crazy, by the way, because if they can be assured, you would think that they would split it. I don't know. The split's so weird because I don't know the groups. Like, you would think that they would split it 5 to 4 to 4 just in case Kristen and Petey aren't with them, but then that does give AJ the chance to start piling numbers onto Paulie, or even them just voting for Paulie, and then Paulie does accidentally go home, which at the end of the day, like, who really cares? This is such a marginal thing for them. But like, that could happen. But then it's like, if you're sure that Kristen and Petey are with you and it's an 11-2 vote, then why are you splitting 6-5-2? Like, it's so egregious, especially for like Paulie, who's going to be in the game. It's just so mean. Like, at that point, just put 3 votes on Paulie just to cover for like 2 people on the bottom, even 2. But 5. I just don't know the groups. But yeah, it does seem like they knew they had an 11 and was so like, we'll split it 6-5, which I know is like a pet peeve for my brother when people like overly split and then just like pile votes on the beta who's going to stay in the game, and it's just so mean, and they just see their name read out so many times. But yeah, it's hard to know. I think that they knew it was an 11-2 split, and I think that AJ's plan would have needed tricking people to be on the beta of the split with Paulie, then putting some of your numbers that were meant to be on the alpha onto the beta on Paulie, and you get Kristen and Petey. It's a lot, and also for what? What would that even achieve other than AJ? AJ just gets so bored. Like, AJ is just like jumping out of his skin to play at any given time, which is crazy because he's played so much, and you'd think that he would want to take a nap, but like, AJ doesn't sleep.
I like that he has 2 speeds. I like that he has the speed of like, I'm full force. I'm telling you that I'm throwing challenges, and I'm telling you you're going home and all that stuff. He's so brash and in front of your face. But then he gets to the merge, and he's just like schmoozing, as they say, up to everybody. Karn's like, I'm sick of his charm, like, you can see that he's taking the AJ, he put the mask back on, like, okay, let me get back in here and work my social game, and it seemingly worked. I do think that they're just putting him off until later on. It's kind of like, we'll get to him eventually, but I like that he's able to have those 2 sides to himself, right? So where he's not always the brash guy who comes in, like, people are going up to him like, I don't think he's that bad. When Kate goes over to him, she's like, I think we can work together. I'm thinking, how did you see what we saw on TV and think that's the guy I want to work with?
Yeah.
So he's got to have something. He's got the gift, man. He knows how to, spin a web or something like that. He's got some mist.
Yeah, I wonder what Kate's dating life is like, where she saw those red flags, but instead saw like little flowers.
She's like, tell me more.
Yeah,
which
was a little bit concerning. I mean, it was interesting. Firstly, let's talk about the canapé party, which, by the way, I love a good canapé, right? I will be at a work event standing by the kitchen for people to bring out the vegetarian canapés, right? But like, it's kind of a frustrating reward food, I feel, because you have to eat so much of it to feel full. Like, I'm always like, how many arancini balls has made it feel like I've actually had like kind of a risotto for dinner? And I love an arancini ball. I'm just saying that like it's
like 15 of them.
Yeah, definitely. And believe me, I do. I'm literally like, don't want to look at me, just like funneling in arancini
just bonded over that. Yeah, like I just bonded on that because I live.
Arancini balls. Do people love it? Like, definitely. But like, as a reward on Survivor, like, give me a pizza, right? Like, well, give me something substantial. Anyway, well, it's a very fancy reward food that they chose. I felt like, firstly, I hated that it kind of made like a bit of a murgatory here. I didn't like that they gave her a majority, because I feel like the stakes are that you choose a minority and then like more people are mad at you. I thought her choices were interesting, like largely good. But I thought the two that were questionable was, firstly, like, Morgan is the emotional choice. Like, if anything, you think like Morgan should stay back and like keep watch, and that's what allies should do. But she wanted to take her friend. And then AJ, I was like, AJ's been a pariah. Like, what are you like gaining? Like, with AJ over Karen, who's someone you definitely should want to work with, or Morgan over Karen. Definitely one of those two for Karen, I think, should have been the swap. But AJ is just so questionable because some people see right through it. Even the people though who was like the Karens loved AJ until last week. So there's something there where Kate does want to work with him, does choose him to go to the canapé. All of that stuff that seemed really cringe to us, right? Like the way he was talking to her and the flex in her eyes, like, I cannot. But like, that worked on Kate, but everyone else can see through it. Even Petey is like, yeah, I can kind of work with AJ, but like knows exactly what he's about. So like, it kind of feels like for every step he takes forward, he takes kind of 5 back because there's that many other eyes with flex on him seeing exactly what he's doing.
Yeah, no, I thought her choices were kind of weird as well. I like that she went and got Kristen because it's kind of like they were aligned way back when. A long time,
like reconnecting with the Brawn.
Right.
Like, even the Brawn, she didn't, like, even though Paulie ends up being kind of like a wasted spot, like, I don't think she can know that at that time. And reconnecting with them to try and pull in those numbers after being away, I thought was a good plan. And then obviously choosing the Brain women, I mean, from a challenge perspective, they had to, and then also from where she was working with, made a lot of sense. And I guess, to be fair, bringing in Morgan to that gives them time to get to know Morgan as allies she's going to want. So that's probably a utility to Morgan coming as well.
Yeah. But what about the Paulie decision? I don't know if I felt the same way about that. I was like, kind of like, why are we picking Paulie? Really? I don't think they were, because I think they were on opposite sides initially, right? Like, Paulie was with Noonan and Kate was not.
No, not really. They were together. It was because that ended
up being that first vote, and we were like, "What is that flip?" Well, yeah, okay, you're right.
To this day, I question still, but like, it was more that what ended up coalescing was like a Jesse, Ben, Morgan, Kate, Paulie, Noonan 6 against like Nash's group.
Okay,
and that was the vibe. So she was with. I think Paulie has been with them.
Yeah. I'm very interested. Yeah, that the split does end up on Jesse and Paulie of all people, because it's kind of like you just brought him in. I would hope that you wouldn't be so willing to toss him aside, but I mean, I think he's just a pariah. Like, I like the scene I guess it was at the canopy, right? Where he's talking to Jesse. Oh, I guess it was after that. He's talking to Jesse, and we get the time elapse thing where it looks like Paulie's just talking his ear off, just like, and I'm thinking, what are we supposed to take from this? That Paulie talks a lot, that Jesse's just not following anything he's saying. I thought, is there something in this moment that's going to put a target on his back? Nope. It just was like, Paulie, what did he call it? Chaotic survival tactics or something like that. Like, it's not messy per se. He's just doing whatever it takes to stay in the game. Chaotic self-preservation, I think, is what he called it.
Well, I think that was showing how much Paulie is high on his own supply of what he'd been through, which, to be fair, looked challenging. And he and Miles even bond over it, which, again, is good for Miles if he's going to keep Paulie around. So I feel like that, again, is positive for why you would keep Paulie over Jesse for one of the brains. But yeah, it felt like he has a lot to talk about of like the trauma of having been in that situation through the swap. And he's telling a lot of people, which is kind of funny because it kind of feels like the kind of thing you would talk about like on a deep dive after the season, but he's already like processing the trauma of the experience while like still in the game, but he's just like moved on to the next phase of the game. And he's still talking to people.
Yeah, he just needed to talk it out. I feel him. I know the feeling, right? Where he's just like, I have to say it out loud so that I know I'm not crazy, right? Like, because like, Dad, do you hear this? Do you hear what I'm going through? Jesse was not following him at all. He did not care. But the one thing I did like in that moment is that Paulie looked at AJ and said, "Look at him over there, just nicing up to everybody. He's just trying to sell everybody a dream. He's doing whatever it takes." And he goes, "I should probably be doing that." And I was like, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Like, you should get out there. Stop complaining about AJ playing the game and go play the game. I'm very nervous for Paulie next round because having all these votes on him this time, it's not a great sign for what's to come. So fingers crossed that he's able to do something.
He's been on crazy borrowed time that has included so many different things, including an idle play, a crazy medivac or quit. And then now Jesse being chosen over him by one. Well, the split was chosen. I say one vote, but like they chose the target. And how does he get at? Like, I don't know. It's like he has 9 lives at this point. We haven't spoken since the great Laura Zara war of 2025 began. Where do you sit with this? Because it's still ongoing now, and it's frustrating me so badly. Every episode, it's just like it's a plot point that kills me slowly.
I love Zara and Logan so much. I want them to go on the Amazing Race and go up against Say and Mary. No, Zara and Logan. And then Say, yes, I love them so much. Separately.
What about Laura?
No, listen, we'll come back to her. I love them so much because, you know, to me, Laura's antics, like about this advantage, it's like, girl, no one stole your advantage. Stop playing. But I love that Logan gets there and she's got her girls back. She's like, what? Zara did what? That sounds like Zara. She would steal your advantage. I'm coming for her. I was like, that's what I'm talking about. Okay. Just unabashed, just like, hey, I'm 10 toes down for my homegirl. Yeah. And she's like, I need her out, but I can't lose Karin. And I was just like, thank you. Like, she's thinking, you know, like we've seen so many people doing ridiculous stuff this season that it's actually very refreshing to see some of these people like, yeah, I'm kind of mad at this person right now, but I'm also not going to do something crazy. She did the same thing with Logan did the same thing with AJ. She's like, I'm tired of not being able to vote out AJ. So let me know when it's time we can vote out AJ. Like, eventually we're going to vote him out, right? Everybody's like, yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Yeah, well, let's vote him out. You know, not this time. But in the future, I don't know what it is about those two women, but I want them on the same tribe. I want them down to the final 2 because it seems like it's brewing, right? It feels like Laura's in the way of the real fight. That's how it feels to me. Yeah, wow. Like because Laura's just complaining about this advantage. Get over it. Get over it. It wasn't an advantage. Number one. First of all, it wasn't an advantage. Number one, it wasn't. That was not an advantage. That was just a sentence. It just said what was about to happen. That's all it was.
Like, was not an advantage. I need the out of context account. That was not an advantage. That was just a sentence.
It was just the words. It meant nothing to you. And then you went and screwed up the little bit that it did do. Okay, she didn't steal your advantage. It's not. But I like that Logan thought like to Logan. That was on brand for Zara. Yeah, like, yeah, she's the type of person who would do that. That's what I'm like, that's the fight. Laura's not the fight. The fight is between those two. Yeah, I feel like she's just between 2 sharks and they can't get to each other right now, but it's coming.
Oh, I love that so much. And everyone needs a friend who will stick by their friends when they're clearly objectively in the wrong. Be like, yeah, that was your advantage. And it wasn't. But like,
it wasn't.
There's so many. I mean, I still to this day, it's one for the exits one day, but like, what was Laura's plan to even get across? Like, was it to tell Morgan and Kate, like, hey, actually do the plan on me? Because they at that point are going to want to vote Jesse to the other tribe. And they did want to vote out Laura and did vote for her seemingly at that tribal council. So at that point, is it, okay, yes, add to the Laura votes. And then I'll go over to, and maybe it was working with them. I think that's where I've come to with it because yes, that like even then, like she said, this was not how I wanted to do it. It was like, how was she going to do it though? What was the plan to get Laura over to the other side? Because it was not an advantage that took her to the other side. Okay, I'm going to give Laura a lot of credit and in the very short-term future, many Chissy points because to be fair to Laura, while it was not an advantage, she has won the narrative, right? Like, you know, like that's all that really matters. Like the truth is in the yes, 100%. The way that and with an agenda, like Logan for sure, but even like Jesse has an agenda. He wants Zara.
But
out.
It's Jesse.
But
yeah, that's Jesse.
To be fair, think, you know, the things that, like Zara becomes the target for the women. They don't like her, And even for the other side, they're like, she's an easy target. Like she has won the narrative that this is something Zara did, even though Zara objectively just did back what Laura was trying to do. But
she told her, I just wanted you to stick to the plan. And then you came to me and said, no, I'm leaving you. So of course like, what do you want me to do? Just sit there and get left behind? What are we doing here?
Preaching to the choir. But the choir is not the players on the island. Right? And like, that's their reality. That's their truth, is that Zara did this thing. And I do think that Laura has won that information law, largely due to her social connections, because someone like Logan loves her so much that she will vouch for her even when her girl is wrong. So you have to credit that. And like, I think even the fact that Morgan and Kate have ever come over to the women last week, this week, the universe was set, the die was cast, whatever it is, I credited Laura on that last week. They were attaching to Laura's power to this other girl's thing. And while I question it for them, I think it's been very good for the Brains women and for Laura. So I think that Laura has done very well here. And for Zara, like she's like, she has a bad reputation from something that even though I think it was fine, and I think it was objectively fine, that's not the story now. So you have to credit Laura.
No, I don't. Here's why. Here's why. Because I'm really trying, because I haven't seen enough of Laura really pushing that, right? Like, we saw her talking about it, but like, she's
pushed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Listen. It's one of those things where it's like, I'll never shut up about it, and you can't.
She hasn't stopped talking about it,
right? Yeah. It's like it's my only thing. But here's the way I'm looking at Zara, and I think it's because JP brings it up. He's just like, hey, JLP brings it up. He goes, "Hey, is it an advantage that you've been on the tribe with everybody?" And even Zara's kind of like, I don't know. And I'm thinking, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily an advantage. You've gone so many places that who knows who they can they really trust you. You've probably been, she's Zara. So, she, a little prickly sometimes. So I think she could have made some enemies. But yeah, I think when you get bounced around like that, and you're just not like, the sparkly person who everybody flocks to, then I think that you can just be somebody who we can all come together and say, yeah, that person could be a target, because we all at least know that person exists and know how they play. And if she's not aligned with me directly, then yeah, let's target her. So I don't know if it was more Laura or if it was like the combination of, the things she does to Laura, it got the mystique around it, right? Like, you did what? You stole her advantage? That's crazy talk. But it also, like, we met you a few times. Like, we saw you over there, we see you over here, we see you over here. And I think I got enough people who weren't willing to work with you, and now we pieced them all together, and now we're at the merge, and we're all looking at you as like, I wouldn't mind as Zara goes.
Well, that's an extreme criticism of Zara. Like, if meeting more people is a detriment to your game, like, that does not speak well about Zara's social game. But it was more like, I do appreciate the JLP is like really needling. I mean, I don't know what the next question at Tribal Council will be, to be like, so Laura, did you find any advantages that were stolen? Like, he really, but right. I appreciate that from a drama perspective, but it was more about the short-term safety, which is interesting for the reasons of they were going to be in a majority. Clearly the women had turned. And also then it was for one tribal council that didn't end up happening. And I even said last week that all Laura, got by staying, like she actually got pasta, but actually then she had won the pasta over Zara. So either way, for like Laura was going to get pasta. It didn't make any material difference. It wasn't even for a vote that ended up happening, but it's just like its legacy lives on. So at the end of the day, if I was like she's losing the PR war, Zara. If I was Zara, I would be going around and saying that was not an advantage, Devin Pinto style. But the narrative has been lost. Perception is reality. That is where Zara is at. You have to credit her.
Yeah, I don't know. I think she can fight back. I don't know. I'm such a big Zara fan. I think it's just something about like a player who just like the move against Laura really made. Like, I was like, wait a minute, let her talk. Let her cook a little bit, because that was player. That woman tried to leave you for dead. If anything, like, yeah, she's winning the PR war now, but I would be pushing that narrative. Like, not only was that not an advantage, look at what she did to me. I was her ally, and she tried to drop me like a hot potato. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm finna follow her around the island and tell you can't trust her. Look what she almost did. I did that to save myself. I hope Zara sticks around a little bit longer. I know she's kind of like she might be losing the PR war, but I think she might be able to. I just want her to stick around long enough to go up against Logan, like, head on. Like, I just really think that that's the fight that we're missing here, because these other people are just in the way. Those are the undercard. Those are the heavyweights.
What it is from a social perspective, not enough people care Well, Zara's had her allies too, to be fair. Like, maybe Zara's just not whining about it enough.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
If you complain about anything, I mean, because Laura has her allies, and she's clearly gotten them over to really hating Zara for this. But we've seen Zara has had allies. Zara has Karen. Zara's had AJ. Zara had the graduates. Like, why isn't she going to the graduates and complaining hardcore the same way?
Because it's not a big deal to her. She don't care. She's like, what? We still talking about this advantage from 3 weeks ago? Girl, stop it. It wasn't an advantage. Leave me alone.
4 years.
She walked up to Laura and said, so you have something to talk to me about? And she's like, well, and then Laura, oh my God, this lady, well, you I just felt like you threatened me. Threatened you? Excuse me? Threatened? How? How did I threaten you, lady, who told me that you're about to leave me here to get voted out? Are you crazy?
This is interesting, because I was thinking, it speaks to Laura's social position that enough people care about her issues that they are mad at Zara for it. But I do think Zara has a good social position. I do think this probably just speaks to who can complain the most. And I think that Laura has won that. But I credit her for that. Okay, whatever she's done, she won the narrative.
That girl didn't threaten her. She said, don't leave me. And you said, I'm finna leave you. And so she said, okay, bet. That's it. That was the conversation.
But how was she going to leave her? What was it going to be? The girls? Morgan and Kate were going to vote out Laura, because they couldn't vote Miles, because that would look suspicious to the guys. That would be like a half flip on the guys to be like, I want to keep the women with me for the night. That would be bad. They couldn't vote Jesse.
She thought she was going to stand there at tribal council and say, listen, everyone, I found this thing, thus I should be voted out. Well, what is her plan?
I think going to Morgan and Kate before tribal council, but then she didn't do that. She could have still done
it. She could have still did that. Right. Instead, she showed up like she had a speech prepared, like, I have an advantage. And Zara said, thanks.
Well, she said, I didn't want to do it this way. So I don't know if the open forum was what she was good. This is one for the exes for sure. But for me, I think, and then now we're going back a week. But anyway, this is the Zippy podcast that we do. For me, I think I would go to Morgan and Kate, and not even necessarily Zara, and be like, hey, I'm letting you know, like, I don't want you to have to flip on your alliance when no one's going home. And I'll go to the other tribe and I'll make those connections. And they do end up wanting to do that at tribal. I would do it before tribal. And maybe then at that point you tell Zara, like, hey, they're sending me over. That's what I told Morgan and Kate, and they decided they want me to go over. They decided it. And then at that point, and then they just decide, they just stick to the Laura vote that they were technically meant to be on. And then they vote out Laura, and the guys don't know, and then no one ever finds out that anyone knew, and then Laura just goes to the other tribe instead of being like voted out, which was the guys thought was happening. No one knows anyone was going to flip, but the women are like protecting Laura for the future, and then maybe voting out like a Miles, or trying to pull Miles for the next time, or Zara's getting cut. But that's what Laura did to Zara, but no one is talking about it because Zara has not complained about it.
She ain't complained about it enough. You got to complain louder. You got to complain loud, complain often,
100%. 100%. She's won the war of complaints, and we're about to hear about it in the Chissy. Take it away, Jacob Sega-Weinstein and MC Color.
1, 2, 3. It's getting kind of Chissy. 3, 2, 1.
All right, because we didn't have a feedback show, I thought we could kind of bring up the charts as well to kind of see where we're at with the Chissy, and then afterwards take a brief gander into the confessional charts. Now, these are from episode 12, right? So we're behind, so I apologize, but I just thought we could take a look into it. We have the Chissy charts here. For my Chissy, I am like, what I want to do is I want to commend the Brains women who got their majorities in gender and tribe, and I think have the options and the power. And I'm giving 3 points to Laura.
Oh,
I am. Mostly though, because she brought over Morgan and Kate, which actually came to fruition here. And I do feel like a lot of that was on her. And I feel like she gets that option over, and they stick together with the Brains. And I'm not as high on it for Morgan and Kate. Again, it was more of last week's decision, but I think that Laura does well to do that. And like, again, if they think they can work better with the women than the Brawn, there's definitely validity to that. But then there's also a credit to the women like Laura who get them over. And she did win the information war. The narrative is in her favor over Zara, who's the target here over Laura. So I'm giving Laura 3 points. I'm giving 2 points to Logan. She won immunity. She's also in power. And again, like for the Lauras and the Logans of the world, I do think Jessie is a better target for all of these women over Paulie, just to keep appeasing Morgan and Kate to keep those options open. So I also think that is good for her. And then I'm giving a vote to Karen because she's always holding it down. And even though we saw her complain as well, she's a good complainer too. But
she is.
said with the most respect. But the reason they don't want to turn on Zara is because Karen's such an important piece for the women. So she's like really important to that. So I just want to commend that. And I didn't give it to Zara, who was targeted here. But I wanted to commend like the other Brains women. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Miles, because I feel like Jesse approaches him and he's like a quasi like swing in the blind side. Like the fact that Jesse could even go to him and be like, hey, dish boy, vote with us. And, then Miles, has his own stuff going on. I feel like he's still being underestimated, but obviously we know he has a bag of tricks. And I feel like taking out Jesse's good. Like he's really sucked towards Miles and would not be a good jury vote for Miles. He's shown him like very little respect from what we've seen. Then should AJ get an honorable mention for like the Kate connections, but then people are so wary? I don't know. Like
no.
Okay.
No, because he said that he wanted this flip to happen. He said it. If he hadn't said it, like I know it doesn't make any sense, but he said it. And so I have to go off of what he said. And I just don't did you really rally these votes and it failed? Like that's gonna bother me into the next episode. Like I just need to just say like we just split the vote. I don't know. Just don't lie to me. If you lied, if you didn't lie to me, then I would know to give you the Chissy points. AJ, if you're listening, you lied yourself out of the Chissy points.
I do think that the connection's interesting. Like we're hearing about the Brains, we're hearing about the women. Where are the graduates? Like is Karen being so out on AJ just the end of that like one episode alliance? Because I enjoyed that alliance. I mean, I feel like Zara is still close to AJ. Logan going to Zara about AJ, I think actually for a 2-point Chissy episode was actually a wrong read. So when are we going to see that? I would like to see that kind of come back, but that's not where we're at right now. So the Brain women are getting all my points, and that's really where they are because Logan, was leading the charts coming into this episode, and then Karen and Miles. So we're kind of building on that for like a Logan, but what points were you giving?
I'm giving my 3 to Kate. Yeah, okay. I know you don't like it, but I think once she's in this position, I think that I think that with the girls, I think that she's placed herself right there. She's got Kristen with, she's like, I think she's got by locking, if AJ is locked in, if he's locked in, I think that was a good move. I think that now she has AJ plus Miles. She got rid of Jesse, who, Miles is not going to fight for. Like these people are not going to fight for Jesse in that way. And she got rid of a threat that she's been trying to get out, right? Like she's been trying to close the door on this Jesse storyline for so long.
Erroneously, but sure.
Yeah. But now that she's like you can't leave it open, right? If she leaves that open, I'm like, Kate, what are you doing? Because if he comes out and votes you out, this is your fault. It's almost like voting for somebody in a tiebreaker twice and then flipping your vote. It's kind of like, why would you leave them in the game to only come vote you out later on? I don't know. Yeah. So, for me, I have to give her credit for that. I just would like to see that like maybe this just wasn't her eating her own, prematurely. Yeah.
It was, but that mistake was made last week. And now she's too far in the hole.
Yeah, that is exactly. Yeah. She has to go down the road. You know what I'm saying? She's already here. She's got to go down. And I think that was the move.
But it was a road of her own making that I don't endorse. Yeah.
But like, but if you don't make a road at all,
Well, there was another road. It was a Braun road.
Was there though?
Man, she jumped off. Like when I say like she jumped off the sinking ship, like Braun wasn't even sinking. It was like there was like a leak in like the bathroom of a cruise ship, and she was like, "Overboard, jump!" I was like, "The ship is still going," and she was like,
"No, absolutely not." Yeah, yeah.
She jumped overboard so quickly, and the cruise was just. It was gonna be okay. It was fine. There was like one tiny leak on a sink somewhere.
Yeah. I'll give my 2 points to Logan. She's got the idol. She's got immunity. She's got some great confessionals as well. Her voting confessional. This is for vengeance. It's crazy. But I love it. I agree. It is for vengeance. So what? And what about it? And I don't know for my last point. Like, I think Karen's been scooping up a lot of the stray points, but I don't know if she did anything in this episode particularly that I want to give her credit for. So I'll count her out this time.
Okay, but just on Karen, to be fair, being structurally like a load-bearing structural piece in this season where there's so little stability, Karen does get a lot of those points. But those points I think have been important in a season where actively playing has often been negative. So that's the Karen side of it. Yeah.
Right. And I listen, and I think you might have just shifted what I was going to say. Yeah. Cause I was like, she didn't really do much, but let's go further down that road you were talking about. To be a load bearing person who doesn't have to do much, but it's still a very important part of the game, I think should be rewarded. And that's why I'm giving my 1 point to Kalen. Because what the hell is he even doing? Why is he in the middle? Why does nobody seem to care? Why is nobody targeting him? Why has nobody said anything negative about him? Positive? Like, he's just there. But I don't see Kalen going home anytime soon. And if he does, this is going to be a hell of an episode because someone's going to have to actually say his name aloud. And I don't think anybody's done it yet. So I'll give my 1 point to Kalen.
Kalen's got a lot of points. Kalen's coming fourth.
He's got a lot of points.
14 points. It's Logan.
It's the positioning. It really is.
Yeah, well now Laura's on 13, but that puts him up to 14. I think it is positioning. We don't see a lot of him. And this is the thing is we didn't see that person. It's like, yeah, a lot of people in the season are going to have more Chissy points than confessionals because people who are doing things, again, are bad, but people in the background holding it down. And Kalen got 2 points from me last episode. And that, yeah, I think that for Kalen, the fact that no one comes in talking about him when he's not in the Women's Alliance and he's like a big, strong guy, you'd think would be a target around something like a merge. There is something there. For someone like a Kalen, even though, of course, we didn't really see him in this episode. So it is interesting because I think, like, if you look at the charts, like, Miles is up there on 19, now coming third because I've given Karen a point. It's hard to do the math on the fly, but Miles's points in waves are, like, the opposite. Like, they're somewhat inflated. Miles got, I think, like 10 points in what ended up being 2 non-eliminations last week. For finding the idol and the knowledge is power, and then how he was like in the episode before. And it was 2 very unstrategic, unimportant episodes again with no vote. And he got a lot of points there on a lot of like flashy stuff. Like Miles' positioning compared to like a Karen, who he's right around the charts with, is night and day. Like he's been mostly at the bottom. He's made some good flashy stuff work with the graduates. He's had wins. He's had like big wins for like an otherwise kind of like low level game just socially, and what it's felt very unfair to him, but that's where it's been, and he has to wear some of that. And Karen, I feel like, has not had the like as much of the flashes and the wins, more with the graduates with Miles, but like otherwise has just been holding it down and is always kind of in the power. So yeah, and the fact like look, Karen's been petty towards AJ and I've not been high on that, but like she seemed to kind of be okay this episode. So yeah, but Miles's points are the most like flash to like really like propel someone higher. But I feel like it's Logan's social installation every single time. People don't understand the social like she's a target here. She's never really a target. They can never get her. She's just that such an interesting game to me. So I think it is interesting. And
Kalen probably wouldn't have got my point, but he voted with that majority alliance, like that majority vote, and I don't understand how. I don't understand how it was the women and Kalen. I have no clue. I have no clue why it's that. Why the split was like that. Yeah, but it's the brains, but not all the brains. You know, like it's not like it's like why is Laura? And like I just really want to understand that split some more.
Well, she's just on the beta at that point. She just gets moved to the beta.
Why would you trust? You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. So that's why it threw me off.
Yeah, that is true because the 6 that they put on Jesse, which is not even a majority, but not everyone else. Whatever. It's not a dangerous situation, but like. The 6 they put in are brains and the women. They don't put like Kristen and Petey on the alpha.
Right.
But they trust Kalen enough that he's in like the core group to be.
He's in the core. Yeah. And I was like, how? You know what I'm saying? Like if this is an important vote, you wouldn't want him on the core. You need all your hitters on the core. You know what I'm saying? Like you got
he jumps to a Paulie with AJ, but they know he won't because he's that stable.
Yeah, which is crazy. Because why is he in so good with them? You know what I'm saying? Like he's so good. So yeah, so he gets my point. He gets my point for sure.
I think I've confused myself on the split, but I don't think it's hard.
The split is weird. It's weird, Shannon. I'm sorry. I said it. It's weird.
I don't know. I don't think that there's any risk. I think it's the kind of thing where it's like, well, they put, 5 women on the alpha and they put Kalen there. So like, God forbid, then they end up getting like 6 votes. So what, like an AJ, a Jesse, a Paulie, a Miles, a Kalen, Kristen and Petey all come like these people like that's never gonna there's not enough there's no they're against nothing, like there's no fight back, there's no threat that like there's like unstable numbers that people will come together on and like beat. It's just not gonna happen.
Can I ask you a question about one player in particular we haven't really talked about?
Sure.
Kristen, I would love to know Kristen seems like socially she's good. I think that like, nobody seems to have a real issue with her. She's back with her OGs. But like it's like PD kind of is like her +1 in a way. I was really looking at the tribe, like the tribe that's left in pairs in a lot of ways, right? Yeah, like Morgan and Kate, and then Miles and AJ. Like a lot of people are just really paired up. But I just do like,
yeah.
Yeah, what? Who is Kevin?
Well,
You know,
Logan and you're right. Logan and Laura.
Yeah.
Zarin.
Yeah, sorry.
Morgan and Kate. Miles and AJ. That's already a lot of.
It's a lot of pairs. It's what 5 pairs, and then what the Stray, Kaylin, Paulie, Jesse, and Jesse's gone.
Yeah, and Kristen and Pete. That's interesting. Yeah.
Right. So I'm just like, what is happening? So I'm very fascinated that Kristen, who comes from basically the bottom of her alliance, while Noonan was running things, to now be at a spot where it seems like she's dragged into put in the women's alliance, but she had no issue being like, yeah, Paulie can go, Jesse can go. Like she was just kind of like, I don't trust AJ. She's like, she seems to kind of understand exactly where she is in the game. I just don't know where her move is from here.
I don't think that, that is a good point. I think that I thought she could be kind of a swing because she had been working with the brain. She could be, even though I didn't see her as like attached to the women's thing, I saw that more as like the brains with Morgan and Kate attaching to like the female brains, even though that is not technically a majority of this tribe of 13, but there's like more than enough numbers there. I think that she like lowly attaches to the women. I think she has like a PD. I think no one's looking at her. The idol thing is interesting. We'll look at knowledge is power. If and like how it looks like Logan's idol becomes public, it feels like no one will look at Kristen's idol. So I think Kristen should just lay low. A lot of people should just kind of table set for votes at a time and then cut it up at like 7.
Just wait.
That's how I feel about these long merges.
Yeah. I let these big threats kind of play themselves out of the game. I feel like there's room for that. I feel like Paulie can't hide, AJ can't hide. Eventually Miles won't be able to hide. You know what I'm saying? So I think you can kind of just maybe sit back. Logan and Zara clearly have people are looking at them. There's a few people who I think if Kristen plays it right, she could kind of slide under the radar for a little bit longer. Because who wants Kristen out? She seems 100%. She seems great.
You play it like Steve Bradbury, not how Steve Bradbury played Survivor, but how he played that ice skating race that he's
Yes, exactly.
These are the confessional charts from Carl Durrett, and this is us with episode 12, but it is a fun game of who has more Chissy points than their confessionals, because Kate had a lot of confessionals this episode, but otherwise she'd be kind of around the edge now that you've given her 3 points today. Kaylin has way more Chissy points than confessionals, and I don't think we heard from him today. I think Kristen probably is around that area as well. So just looking like AJ's on 39, which is honestly not that much for Australian Survivor. But and then we get the big characters, Karen, Miles, Laura. Logan being under Laura, it's around the same. But that's surprising. I feel like Logan's one of the biggest characters. And Paulie's only on 21. That's also shocking to me. But it's more about the timing of the confession. I think we see that can really be disparate, and it's again not all on confessionals, but just some surprises in the charts there.
Well, Paulie's the main character in that everyone's talking about Paulie, right? And so it's like Paulie's not necessarily the person we're going to for the soundbite of what Paulie's going to do, because Paulie's just trying to survive. In a lot of ways, it's like you cut to somebody else being like, I think Paulie's crazy. I think I could go. I think Paulie is erratic. I think Paulie's playing his ass off. He's trying his best, And so I think that you don't get a lot of confessionals of him being like, my back's up against the wall. But it really is. And I think that's probably why he doesn't have as many. But, the other people that you name, Logan, Laura, Miles, they've had moments, where it's just like, you got to let them cook. Some of the people lower on the other end, I'm not shocked by at all. Jesse, Kaylin, Kate. We didn't even know if Kate and Kristen could, Kate and Morgan could talk. I still don't know if Morgan can talk, prior to last week. So yeah, I think this sounds about right.
Yeah. Well, PD is on 3 confessionals. Did PD not get a confessional in the episode where he was injured?
He did. Because I made note of his sling. He got a confessional at least in this episode.
Okay, but not, he did in this episode, but we don't have those charts. It seems like he did where he got injured. That feels rude.
It couldn't have. That does feel rude. I mean, what PD gonna tell us?
Yeah. Okay. Well, those are the charts. I don't know how much of this podcast made sense. It wasn't a difficult episode to analyze, but I hope we made sense.
I don't hope we made sense. I hope we were fun to listen to, because I was just like, I watched the episode and I was like, this thing's really boring. And I was like, but this season has been far from that. And so I'm thinking there's some other stuff in the background, you know what I'm saying, that we really need to unpack. And I was very happy to talk about those things with you.
It's a table setting vote that will get into the chaos because there's 13 people and because people are like, we can put the drama aside for a day, which you have to credit them for. That's actually good. Yeah. Sometimes when the players do things that are actually, you're like, okay, I agree with that. It's like, it makes it more mundane, but it's a rarity in the season. You're like, yeah, you like Brains, don't give up your majority now. And they don't. Good for them. Like that's easy, but somehow maybe wasn't assured. So I'm glad that they know to do that and to keep their slim majority going into, through the merge, the beginning of the merge.
But it's about to get real, Shannon. So let's see what happens next.
Let's see what happens. Well, I want to thank people. I got some nice messages concerned because the podcasts were canceled. I wouldn't cancel the feedback show lightly. It was a tough week, but everything will be okay. And thank you to everyone who reached out. Chappell, where can people find you?
RHAPkickback.com. Please, hey, the Australians have been showing up. I know y'all have. YouTube.com/@RHAPkickback. Go hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You ain't got to listen. Just go hit that subscribe button. And then you're going to listen because you love me. Or at least you'll get distracted by some of the shiny things that I post on YouTube. And maybe you stick around for a little bit. But you do that. And then catch me talking about Netflix shows on the Nothing But Netflix podcast. I'm talking about The Pit over on the Crying Laughing podcast with Ariel and Dr. Amanda. I'm all over the place, Shannon. But yeah, just subscribe and you can find me.
Well, they put out an ad today that they were like Sunday night, Monday night. And we were like, what? But it looks like there is an episode on Tuesday. So keep watching. And then we're going to have a feedback show. Oh, do you know how our feedback show is with this week? It's chaotic. Ooh. It's more chaotic than the season.
Huh? What's happening?
I'm bringing in my whole 42 crew, Oma and Marianne and Zach. Marianne is binging the season. I'm like, you're not going to get there. And she promises she will. So
I trust her. Marianne has never... she's never proven me to be like she got it. If she set her mind to it, Marianne can do anything. I guess I
agree. I literally said to her, I'm like, you can do anything, but I don't know if you can do this, but I think she will do it. So
yeah, she will do it to spite you. Omar is dead to me, and I'm very happy that Zach is coming on the podcast. I can't wait to listen.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So we're gonna have 3 recaps, I think. And then the feedback show. And I'm going to do something for 48 that might be out or be coming out. And I wasn't going to podcast about 48 this weekend, but I'm going to do something with Puya actually. Like when we do the AU recap, we're just going to go back to back. And because I wanted to talk about the vote that we just saw in 48. AU part over at Shannon Gates. Just want to give okay. If you know enough about the draft that we could talk about the draft in vague terms and spoil you on 48, tap out now. Chappell, we're over an hour, but do you want some allotted draft gloating time?
I mean, there's nothing to gloat about. Sometimes people win the draft. Other times people lose the draft. And sometimes people lose the draft in a really bad way and it's embarrassing and they should just stop wearing tiaras and crowns and making videos. And, it is what it is. Take the good, you take the bad.
I probably won't wear a tiara and make a video about this season.
You definitely shouldn't. This is the one to sit out. Let this one go. Let's pretend like it didn't happen. Listen, Shannon. F that draft. 50 is coming, okay? 50 is coming. We got bigger fish to fry. I don't care about this draft. You know what I'm saying? That draft is fine. 49, no disrespect to those people, but who? 50, Shannon? It's going to get real because you might actually have a chance to draft Marianne again. Who knows? Maybe Omar.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. They have to earn my drafting. I don't just draft.
For it. Yeah, we've seen them play now, Shannon. We have more data.
100%. Well, okay. That's me. Just, the draft. That was why I had to cancel the feedback show. I got word that I was just like, I'm taking this one out. No. Thank you all again. Thank you for the messages. Thank you, Chappell. Thank you to our team behind the scenes. Thank you to the listeners. And I will see you tomorrow night. Bye.
Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.